Howdy, everybody. This is Soul Level Astrologer Mark Borax in Putney, Vermont, where it is storming down rain, which fits the theme for today's Cosmic Weather Report Live, Shelter from the Storm, Neptune at 30 degrees Pisces. And I am freshly back from the Oregon Country Fair with a bit of jet lag since I just flew from Portland, Oregon to Boston, Massachusetts on the red-eye flight, and am still in a bit of a dreamy state. There's an interesting situation between May and September of this year, which is Neptune is lingering on a single degree of the zodiac. And that's a long time for Neptune to just be situated on one single degree. And it's a powerful degree. It's 30 degrees Pisces, which is the final degree of that very oceanic sign and very oceanic planet. Each of the 30 degrees of a particular sign of the zodiac has their own microcosm of meaning, their own story, their own really universe. This is one reason why people of the same sun sign can be very different from each other, because 1 degree Pisces is incredibly different than 2 degrees or 3 or 10 or 20 or 30, where Neptune has been since May and is going to continue until September. So we're roundabout in the middle of this time period that Neptune is on this 1 degree. And that degree, well, the final degree of any sign of the zodiac is kind of the wild card. It's off the normal deck, where whatever that sign is about, now it's about something else altogether. And this is different than the cusp theory of astrology, which I actually don't agree with. Many astrologers and students of astrology believe that the closer you get to the next sign, the more influence the next sign has on the current sign. So if 30 degrees Pisces is the closest that Pisces ever gets to Aries, the cusp theory of astrology would say that the Aries influence is already felt in this final degree. I don't agree with that at all. But I do believe that that last degree of any sign is where wild, strange, unusual things happen that are not at all contained by the rest of the degrees of that sign. In Pisces, which is already a transformative, hallucinogenic, metamorphic, oceanic sign, what's happening at the final degree is a zone that's known to medicine journeyers and shamans and mystics, where normal consensus reality, as most of us know it, is shredded, is just ripped to shreds. And instead, a portal is opened to a wild, primal, mythopoetic zone. It's not easy to navigate that zone unless you're used to medicine journeys, taking acid, mushrooms, ayahuasca, even strong pot gummies and things like that. So what's happening is the whole world is tripping. And this makes sense if you think of Neptune as a planet of cyclones And when we talk about storms on Neptune, we're not talking about terrestrial storms here on Earth, because the winds of the storms on Neptune go up to 1,500 miles an hour, and that's the same effect that Neptune has on human consciousness. Just huge, unimaginable cyclonic storms are raging through mass consciousness right now. And that makes sense in terms of mundane affairs, such as current national politics in my country, the United States. There's already raging forces sweeping through consciousness that I have been noticing have been making a lot of people step back and laugh at what's being presented to us as the choices for president in this country. I'm not going to go into that very much because my political activism is something I keep pretty separate from my astrology work, which is based on the soul. And so what's happening with Neptune on 30 degrees Pisces between May and September, and we're just about right in the middle of that, is oceanic surges that are messing with stability and structure. This can be hold on a second. I'm doing a broadcast tonight now. This this messing with stabilities and structures, I think, is making a whole lot of people insecure, fearful, and whereas it's making groups of whole other people inspired, and I feel a little of both. Depending on what day of the week you check in with me, I may be more sitting under the pressure of the destructive changes of our time, the bizarre situation in world politics, where we basically now have world government via intelligence agencies. And there's a misnomer, if I ever heard one, because those agencies' professed job is gathering intelligence, something that both President Eisenhower and President Kennedy warned us about, that the intelligence agencies were growing and growing and growing, bloated in power, and they could foresee no positive outcome of that whatsoever. In fact, there's a lot of evidence that shows that that's why John F. Kennedy was assassinated, because he had just fired the head of the CIA, and he had just announced he was going to slash the agency's budget in half. And then voila, he got blown away. That situation where these agencies that are supposed to be gathering intelligence on rival governments, foreign governments, has now become surveillance on their own people. These strange, destructive changes in the structures of our time, where the government is being run by spies who are fanatically, psychopathically obsessed with gathering information, and in the name of that will infiltrate all privacies and rights granted to us by the Constitution. And this is not just limited to the United States. This is all around the world. Now, here we have Neptune battering structures, and the current presidential election, which I see as a huge travesty, a gigantic joke, is how a lot of people are feeling the fear and the strangeness, the doomsday clock wearing out, limited time. But other people are taking heart at the shaking of the structures, at the loss of any viable government, and it depends really upon how much faith you've put into Uncle Sam taking care of you, into the authorities really caring about you and being on your side. As that gets shaken and threatened, if you've put a lot of faith in those systems, you're going to be really shaken. But if you've seen through the falsity and the travesty of these power structures, the fact that they're being battered for months and months on end, might actually give you some hope that maybe something could come along to replace it. Though it seems like we're going to have to go through a tremendous uprising before the structures really crumble, because as we saw in the 1960s, when you threaten the powers that be by throwing your allegiance with love and unity and transformation, the people running those structures fight back hard, which is what happened in the 1970s to follow the great 60s uprising. But the old stories are cracking, the systems are crumbling, ways of being that used to seem solid are falling apart all over the world. And as those reality systems shred, it's natural to seek some kind of shelter from the storm. One of the qualities of altered states is that it can reveal who you really are down deep in ways that normal consciousness can't. And now that the storm has lessened, I'm going to open my window and let some more air in here. It's funny, but an altered state can hold a mirror up to the soul, whereas normal everyday consciousness also holds a mirror up to you as an individual, but it rarely mirrors who you are down deep on the inside, which is my province. I created soul level astrology in 1987. The only interest I have in the birth chart is as a window to the soul or core nature of a human being. And my readings are like altered states. They're like little medicine journeys without the substance involved, where I paint a portrait of who you are down deep. And from doing this for about 40 years now, I've learned that on the inside, a person may look very, very different from whom they seem to be on the outside, and very different from whom they even think they are, whom they may seem to be to themselves. So this 6-month period or 5-month period of Neptune on 30 degrees Pisces is holding up a kind of altered consciousness that can show you to yourself, that can show your loved ones to you. Anybody who's willing to make it through, like the shamanic swirling nausea period. In some cultures, there's a process where, in order to get to the spirit realm, the shaman has to spin around. And the spinning around is sometimes accompanied with an entheogenic state with medicines, with ayahuasca or whatever. And that spinning is what we're all going through in the world now. So if you're feeling some vertigo, dizziness, nausea, it may be more because of Neptune being activated for all these months on 30 degrees Pisces than just strictly something that you ate. And if you can make it through that that period of shifting, you can get to a realm of the soul, the inner realm, the place where you're not just your identity. You're not just your driver's license and your income and your appearance and your job and your neighborhood and your friendships. You're also a living member participating in the great cosmic unfolding of our time. It's not always to feel that grand mythopoetic connection with cosmos, especially if your basic needs aren't being met, like so many people who have gotten disrupted and upended by the whole pandemic. It's not easy to feel the cosmic connection if you're hungry and can't pay rent and living out on the streets, as more and more and more people are doing. But what it really comes down to, when you get to that mythopoetic medicine realm, which I resist continuing to call it an altered state for one simple reason. I think normal, modern, everyday reality is the altered state. And I think that the state that certain medicines can take us to is realer than that everyday, normal, so-called reality, because a reality that is based on governing by intelligence agencies and spies and surveillance that has nothing to do with love and unity, I don't consider that real. I think what most people think of as ordinary everyday existence is a drug, is an addiction, is an altered state. And sometimes to make it through one altered state, you need another version. And so one of the gifts, though it's a strange kind of a gift that Neptune on 30 Pisces during these months may be offering all of us, is to sweep away investment and participation in the bizarre state of events that has come down to our normal reality. For me, this shows up in politics almost more than anywhere else, but it also shows up in education and certainly in mass media. Freshly coming home from the Oregon Country Fair, which I've been going to for 45 years, out in the forest of Veneta, Oregon, between Eugene and the Pacific Ocean. I've gotten the training during 40 years of being with 50,000 people who walk around for days in the forest, believing in love and music and magic and kindness. And, it's been like my own personal Woodstock since I was a young man in my early 20s. And here on the verge of turning 70, on October 2nd, I'll be turning 70. It made me feel young again. The last few days I spent at the fair playing music, connecting with old friends, making new friends, jamming around the campfires all night long. It reminded me of how good life is and how real people can be with each other, especially strangers. And so the only thing that's going to get us through the current strangeness of our time is that kind of belief in love and friendship, support and allies. It takes us a lot to believe in love, as all things around us crumble. But in the final outcome, what else is there? Along with the Cosmic Weather Report for Wednesday, July 17th, Year of the Dragon, I want to let people know I've been offering a $200 discount. My normal 1 hour soul level astrology reading is normally around $500. Now it's around $300. You can find out about that at my website, markborax.com. My latest book, The Ruby Heart of the Dragon, Sun Signs for Our Times, is still being offered for sale. I just won an award from the Independent Book Publishers, the largest independent publishing award in the world. They gave Ruby Heart of the Dragon an honor, and I'm happy to and proud to report that. We're slowly gathering students for the next 3-year chart study course, where I teach students around the world how to live by the soul by reading the birth chart by the soul. And anything else you need to know about my books, my readings, and my classes, go to markborax.com. You also can get my email, can email me. I am sending a lot of love and country fair energy from Putney Mountain, Vermont, as the storm is abating and the light is coming back in the sky. This has been Soul Level Astrologer Mark Borax with the Cosmic Weather Report live. You can join me next month when I pick up the torch, and may all your karma turn to great.